Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are at the end of the second week of June, and because of the situation of the other professor who wasn't able to give the lecture today on chapter number 5, I'm going to step in and give you an introduction to what would have been covered. I'm also going to make some notes about what are some of the main points that would have been done in week 4 on chapter 4 of the text as well. So let me just do that first. Week 4, chapter 4 in the text is about ethics and bribery. And in the textbook that you're actually using for this course, I'm the one who's actually the author of that section on ethics. But I'm not going to go through the whole chapter. I'm just going to go through some of the things that I would have taught if I had taught you chapter number 4, or if you had been in a regular class that went straight through 4 months with the same prof. So the first thing, of course, is talking about ethics in the context of bribery. And one of the things I always discuss is how the 6 environments affect ethical situations, meaning things like competition, technology, social, cultural, all those kinds of things. Because ethics is not universal across all cultures around the world. In some countries, bribing a police officer would be a very, very bad thing. But in other countries, there's an understanding that nurses and police officers and school bus drivers and all those types are paid very, very little because the government doesn't make enough money. So if you want extra help and assistance, you have to, pay a little. You go to the government office to pay your property tax, and if you pay a little bit extra, they'll put you at the front line and you won't have to wait all day. Little things like that. So that's part of the social cultural environment, which is also a reflective of the economic environment. Ethics is different in countries where the economy is not poor because people aren't stressed to have to do things which are unethical. The other thing, too, is technology. Technology allows us to uncover and obtain information about things that are maybe none of our business, or put us in a vulnerable situation where people can find out things about what a company did in an unethical way. And also the competitive environment. Some people say that companies would behave a lot more ethically if they weren't so pushed to make the maximum amount of profit for their shareholders, and that if that situation didn't exist, there wouldn't be such a pressure on to do unethical things to save money and increase profits. So that's the intro to that section, talking about how ethics is affected by the 6 environments. Then we get into talking about corporate social responsibility. This is a big thing these days, where a lot of companies, medium and large size, are being challenged as to how they're going to address the public's concern over whether or not they're behaving properly. So there are 4 points here. We talk about obstruction stance, basically when a company does things to make it difficult. Defensive stance, basically when they say it's not our fault. The accommodative stance and the proactive stance. So I want you to reread those points again, and they're also in the textbook chapter 4. And then the whole point about stakeholders, and there's a little video here discussing about the origin of the word stakeholders, and several of you already made comments on it and thought that was interesting that I explained it that way, and didn't know that the mining business was a big business in Canada. And also the word stakeholders itself. One of the things that's something I always try to do in this course is every class teach you 1 or 2 or 3 words which are big words to use in international business. And keep in mind that word stakeholders, because you can stick it into conversation anytime, any place, about anything. For example, if someone asked a question about what you think about the company, you could say, well, the majority of your stakeholders are positive about your future market development plans. Just by popping in the word stakeholders there causes a person on the other side to believe that you sound like an educated person and they should hire you for the firm. And there's a couple of case studies here. The one that I usually talk about in class is the situation of the Toyota, where the problem was that Toyota as a company was not responding quickly to the American accusations about problems with their cars. And so that was actually covered off in a couple of videos by my students, which are here, in which they talk about this sticky pedal thing. Now, the other thing I want you to watch this video for is because they talk about the event data recorder, which is the black box in cars. And that's kind of an interesting teachable point for you people driving around there that don't know. If you do not have a dash cam in your car, and you're in an accident, is there any way you can prove that you did in fact have your turn signal on and that you did brake properly? Well, this information is now all captured in a dash camera, and that's kind of one of the little minor points explained in this video here. All right, going back to ethics, and just scroll down here. And the other thing, of course, I talk about in every course on ethics is the situation of apartheid. And I do that sort of a lecture style. I talk about apartheid, South Africa, Nelson Mandela, and so on. And then the other thing too, when we talk about ethics, we get into money laundering. And I talk to the students about a little story of, if you rob a bank and you have $1 million, how much is that in size? Well, the answer is it's about the size of 6 or 7 economics textbooks. So physically, to be able to rob $5 or $6 million from a bank, you'd need a small wheelbarrow in order to carry it out to the truck to run away with it. So that gets us into the whole story about diamonds and the trade of diamonds, which are either stolen or mined by slaves or so on. Conflict diamonds, that's what it's called. And the fact that Canada is a world leader in identifying diamonds that are not conflict diamonds. Okay. Then there's a couple of videos here talking about corporate social responsibility, and then the whole thing about whistleblowers as well. So that's what I would have done in chapter number 4, and above for those people that going back previous week.